What's going on, 3 a.m. amigos? We're back, finally. Long winter, very cold. Didn't do much riding, didn't do much bike activity over the winter, so we've been a little slow on the YouTube. But we're back, it's starting to get warm here around New England, and starting to get the bikes ready. And fortunately, today, our nice friends over at Nicecnc, who make a lot of anodized parts for a lot of different model bikes, you can check out the link below to see if they make parts for your bike. But the fine folks over there sent me some goodies for the Tenere for the 2025 season. So I'm gonna show you what we got, and we're gonna throw them on the Tenere here in a minute. Stay tuned. All right, guys, so like I said, got a whole mess of parts here from Nicecnc. They sent us some beautiful performance parts, some aftermarket goodies for the Tenere. Just to go through a few of these, you can see I went with these beautiful blue oversized and extended foot pegs compared to stock. You'll see compared to the stock ones, I took the rubber out of the stock ones, but you can see the size difference. That's one of my biggest complaints with this bike is I felt like I needed to move my feet out, especially off-road riding. So this will definitely help with that. Beautiful quality. Anodization looks great. Design is really cool. You can see they're adjustable with the screws. These should be a nice plus. They sent me those. I also went with the bracket that stiffens up the shift shaft. So I'll open all this up obviously in a second here and show you what it looks like up close, but this is basically a bracket that sits back here and it stiffens up the shaft because this is kind of far out from the case, so it just bolts on here, stiffens that up. Went with all the same blue because the bike is blue. I know it's not the exact shade, but that's okay. I'm okay with the little contrast. Cool little rear master cylinder guard here. This just sits in front of the rear master cylinder. As you can see, it'll go somewhere in there, right behind that. That should be a little added protection. I also went with the bracket. Now this is pretty much exclusive to Tenere owners. This bracket, there's a lot of vibration here. In the anyone who has a Tenere will know that the speedometer cluster assembly shakes quite a bit. So this is a bracket here that goes on that to stiffen that up. Same blue, so we'll put that on there. We'll have to pop the windshield off. And I also went with, this is a guard for the kickstand sensor, so that way if it prevents, you know, something from popping up off-road riding and potentially breaking that sensor, preventing the bike from starting because it thinks the kickstand's down. But yeah, so 5 cool parts, all from our friends over at Nicecnc. They look like beautiful quality, but we're gonna open them up here in a second and go through them. All right, guys, so I just yanked them open. As you can see, a lot of these, actually all of these are blue. They offer them in blue and black for the Tenere, but I went with blue for my bike just because I'm a big blue fan. Hopefully it's not too much blue, but we'll see, because I already added the blue skid plate, so, and it's got the blue rims factory, so hopefully it's not enough. It's not too much. I know it's a little bit different, like I said, but that's okay. I think it'll look good in my eyes, and that's all that matters, right? But basically what we have is the bracket for the tower, the guard, the stiffener, the shift shaft stiffener, foot pegs, and the bracket for the kickstand safety. But they all look beautiful. I just looked over each one of them. Seem really high quality. So we'll throw them on here, and then we'll get out and ride and see if we can test these out, especially the foot pegs here. Those are the ones I feel. Those, and you know, obviously if the dash isn't shaking, this one's doing its job. But the guards, obviously, hopefully we don't have to test those out. But yeah, so I'm gonna throw you guys on a tripod here, and we'll get to installing some parts. I'm gonna start with the foot pegs because these are my favorite of the 5 pieces. But to take the old ones off, quick and simple, you just pop the pin that holds the stock ones on, and slide the new one in. Make sure you don't lose the spring if it comes flying out. Let's do that now. There we go. Pop that out. Don't lose it. Then we push the pin pin. And here is the stock one, small. Here's the new one. I'm gonna move the factory spring over. Making sure I grab tension. Simple as that. Slide the pin in. You may need something like me to bang this down. Everything's a hammer. If you use the back side of it. There we go. Pins in. Uh-oh, see? What'd I just say? Don't lose the cotter pin. This is the problem with epoxied floors. Oh, there it is. Cool. I'll show you guys these on. As you saw, I got that one on. I did the second one. It was the same exact process, just the opposite side. There's that one, much bigger, much beefier. They actually give you extra studs too. When I was cleaning up the wrapping, I found a little bag of extra studs. They give you like 4 or 6 of them, spares, if you need to thread in a new one, which is nice. So I'll throw those in the toolbox. But next, I'm gonna throw on the bracket here. This bracket right here, the anti-vibration for the console. It looks pretty straightforward. Obviously, you can find all the directions right on their website. They actually give you QR codes that bring you right to their website, right on the packaging. I'll show you. So, kind of shredded the packaging here to get everything out. But here is a Facebook QR code. They have them on all of the pieces, which is kind of cool. You can find the instructions and how to install them and everything. But yeah, so I'm going to throw on this anti-vibration bracket, and it looks like you just thread it through the, you take this bar out that goes behind the windshield. It'll thread through, put that back in, and then there's 2 screws to screw into the back of the console. They give you replacements, and then there's set screws for this bracket up here. So we'll get that all installed up, and we'll be good to go. Now, for this anti-vibration bracket, we got to take out this top bar here. Hopefully you guys have a good view. So I already took the windshield off. That's pretty easy, self-explanatory. That's just 4 screws. And then we have to remove these 2 bolts that go into the back of the console here. They give you new ones that are a little bit longer. Thing's moving forward on me. Whole console's dropping out. We're gonna yank these out, replace them with the provided from Nicecnc. Get the second one out. All right. It almost feels rubber mounted the way it's still biting. Take those out. Now we're gonna grab our bracket. We're going to slide the shaft through. Then we will go back with the install here. And that's notched so it doesn't rotate. I'll put that in there. That drops nicely. Let me see if I can show you. That drops nicely down into the brackets that are already on the back of the console. That's a nice build, nice design there. And then we will take the provided hardware. We'll throw that in. Is it the same size head? It is not. It is one size smaller. And that's okay because tighter tolerance here on the holes for the anti-vibration bracket. Pinch everything together. This should be a nice upgrade because that was one of my other complaints with this bike. Like, come on. I get why they rubber mount it, or so that when you're off-road, it's got some, it's got some play, so it's not rigid mounted. But this will be nice. This will be a nice, less of an eye strain seeing the gauges as it's not bouncing all over the place. But what's nice about this being that it drops into the back of the console like this is you don't have to worry about centering it because it only has one position that it can go. So let's snug these up. So now we can put the bolts back in for this bracket on top here. Tighten those up. Okay. Get those all snugged down. Ooh, wind's blowing the doors. A little gusty outside right now. It's okay. Spring is here, which is great timing that the fine folks at Nicecnc reached out with these awesome parts, because it is time to get back on two wheels. I actually did my first real ride of the year today on the other bike, the Tracer. But okay, perfect. Now, what's nice about this is it also gives you I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, a set screw that goes in the other side. On this side, and just sets it on the bar there. So I'm going to have to look for a tool to get this installed, because I don't know if I have one that small, or at least readily available, but I might. But I'm going to have to go dig for this, so I'm going to cut you guys off here so you don't have to wait while I go dig for tools. All right, I found the right size on one of these little Allen key rings, because it is a tiny little set screw. So okay, there's one. Can't even pick up this other one. These things are so small. There we go. Okay, perfect. There is the bracket. Oh, look at, wow. That is much stiffer. Awesome. That's all tied together now. It's like the piece that Yamaha should have put in their factory. Perfect. All right, now all I got to do is throw the windshield back on, and then we'll move on to another part. All right, guys. So I got that one on. Got the windshield back together. Looks good. Now I'm going to do this little brake rear master cylinder guard. Oh, let me try and get that to focus. Again, beautiful quality. Nice anodization. This one's cool. It's got the upper and lower limits for the brake fluid on there, so you can see it even with the guard on. They did give me this little piece of foam that sticks on double-sided tape onto the back here, so that way it doesn't, you know, rattle against the rear master cylinder. So this one's pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to throw this one on real fast. Rather than, it's just one single screw right there, and then you just put it back in with the screw right there. So this one's going to be quick and easy. I'm going to throw this on now. Cool. Be right back. All right, guys, that one was quick and easy. Just used a quick 8mm nut driver. Took that bolt out, put the bracket right through, and simple, fast one. All right, so moving on. I was going to go ahead and put this bracket that protects the kickstand safety switch. Say that 3 times fast. Kickstand safety switch on there. I just laid under the bike just to get a quick idea of how to install this. Simple. You use the factory 2 bolts that hold the kickstand on, and this goes in and replaces the factory one. So there is a factory bracket or guard under there. However, just holding this one up, this one from Nicecnc is so much beefier than the factory one. So I definitely want to get this on. However, you have to take the kickstand off to do this. And my stand, the only one I have right now, is currently holding up the Grom, because the Grom is getting a new chain put on it. So I don't have the wheel on that, so I can't put that back on the ground right now. So I'm gonna have to wait to do this. We'll definitely do this in this video. I just can't do this one today. I'll either need to get Devin over here to hold the bike up for a minute or wait till I put the chain on the Grom. So we will hold off for now, but you'll see this later on in the video. It is just these 2 large bolts that hold on the kickstand. This replaces the factory one, and then the 2 bolts, the factory bolts, go back through. And then this comes down right here, and this is where the safety switch actually sits, and then this will be your impact spot for it. So, all right, so we'll do that later when we can. But let's move on to the last piece of the 5, and that is the bracket that braces the shift linkage. So I'm gonna have to take the shift linkage off. This one does give you some hardware, but I'll show you what we gotta do. But what we gotta do here is we gotta take the shift linkage off right here, slide that off, and then this will go on right here. And I believe behind this case, we gotta take these case bolts out too, and they give you new ones to go through there. And then this will sit right in here, bracing this shaft. It's got some nice roller bearings in there, which will be, just added protection, added security. So I'm going to throw you up on a time lapse because this one's going to be a little bit more time consuming. Throw some music over it, and yeah, we'll get that put on. I'll let you know if I run into any issues. So far, with all the other stuff, so far, been great. Okay. All right, fast and simple on that one, short time lapse. But yeah, you just take out the bolt here, the shift linkage falls off or slides out, and then you put the bracket on right here. That's perfect fit. Like, they couldn't have done any better with that fitment. No issues. 2 new pieces of hardware, seem high quality, threaded right in, no issues. Snugged it up. I gotta just go back and torque everything. I'll have to look up the torque specs, but I'll do that later. And hopefully I got that in the right position. I probably should have put a mark. I don't know if you guys can see this, there's like a little line on it. I kind of was like, that kind of points at that stain right there. So I'd put a mark if you were doing this yourself. But anyway, got that all taken care of. That's on. And yeah, so that's all 4 pieces. The only one left is the safety switch, or the kickstand safety switch guard that I'll have to put on after when I have a second set of hands. That goes right under here. When I have a second set of hands here that can hold the bike upright, or I finish the chain on the Grom like I mentioned. So yeah, now we'll get this piece slapped on when I have a second set, and then let's go test these things and see how they do. Obviously, we can test the bracket, make sure that doesn't vibrate. We can definitely test these foot pegs. Obviously, we can't really test this. This is just more of, bracing this shift shaft so that it doesn't start, elongating over time, just to keep that shaft centered. And hopefully that'll do its job, but that'll be a long-term test. And obviously the master cylinder guard there, that'll be a long-term test to make sure that I don't crack it in the woods. But yeah, so anyway, thanks for tuning in. All right, guys, well, back at it. Finally got the stand available, so I was able to put the bracket on for the kickstand safety. That thing is way heavier duty than this little chintzy thing they give you factory. So got that on, looks good. Should protect the kickstand switch. Now I got all the parts on. We'll just have to wait for the weather to get a little nicer so we can test them out. Cool. Big shout out to Nicecnc for hooking me up with the parts. Couldn't thank them enough, but I'm really digging them so far. Got the foot pegs, the bracket, the switch, the vibration dampener for the screen, and the little shield there. Awesome stuff. Cool.